Whatever you're going through, you will get through it because you're here. And that means you are not alone. This is The Meaningful Meeting. Now your host, Ace Cannon.
I don't know what I'm doing here. I'm glad you're here for whatever the reason is. I have said many times before, I am not an expert really at anything. But one of the things I love most about doing this podcast is the constant search for inspiration, the constant search for ideas. My goal is to make it timely, personal, emotional, fulfilling for you. And as I've told you before, fulfilling for me, because the idea that I've got something that I could share, or we could have a conversation about something that could be helpful to you, helps me through everything that I have been going through in my life and continue to go through in my life. And that's why we call this The Meaningful Meeting, because if you missed it before, we're just in our third episode of The Meaningful Meeting, an offshoot of the old Ace at Large podcast. And this is where you come every week because you just need a little juice. You just need a little something to help you through the week. Maybe you just need somebody to give the voice to what your thoughts are. Maybe you're looking for inspiration. I'm here hoping to offer you something to take with you for the rest of the week, because that makes me feel like I've done something good, and that helps me through whatever it is that I'm going through, for being completely honest. And today is one of those days where, the ideas that I want to share are just come out of things or inspired by events that I just stumbled across this week. And that's one of the beautiful things about The Meaningful Meeting. This is really, I think the only meeting that's that important during the week. Go to a lot of meetings at work, and it seems to be a waste of time. And I saw somebody say that working in corporate America is like having a meeting to discuss the meeting that you're going to have next week, in which you'll end up booking a couple other meetings before that to discuss that big meeting. So hopefully this is not what we're doing. Hopefully this week you leave here, and every week you leave here with something you can take with you. Like, yeah, I'm going to be good. I'm going to make it through that, because there are similarities, I believe, to whatever it is that we're all experiencing and going through in our lives. And one of the things, just to remind you, please let me know about your story. Tell me your story. Tell me your situation. You can always hit me up on Facebook. It's under David Ace Cannon, or you could hit us up at the Ace and TJ Show. DM me and let me know what's happening. But today's is kind of the offshoot of something rather interesting. A 16-second clip that I saw on television last week. 16 seconds. And I went, that's it. That's it. I love that. And here's just an offshoot thought. It's a 16-second clip that I saw on TV. You might have seen it too. Point being, there are little pieces of inspiration scattered around everywhere. This 16-second clip came from while I was watching football highlights of the Seattle Seahawks, of all teams. And it comes from a guy named Geno Smith. Now, Geno Smith, if you're not a football fan, is a rather interesting story. Born in 1990, he's a quarterback who was drafted in the second round out of West Virginia. He led the West Virginia Mountaineers to multiple bowl games, set some passing records, and in the 2013 NFL draft, like I said, went in the second round to the New York Jets. And he had two relatively inconsistent seasons as the Jets starting quarterback, and the Jets weren't that great then. And he lost his starting position due to injuries in his final 2 years with the team. He spent time with the New York Giants, the Los Angeles Chargers, and the Seattle Seahawks, where stories have begun to come out now that last year, when he filled in a couple of times as the starter for the Seahawks in place of an injured Russell Wilson, the Pro Bowl quarterback Russell Wilson, who was traded to the Denver Broncos, that last year people began to say, hey, look, we believe in this guy. We believe in this Geno Smith, who's now a 10-year veteran in the NFL. Geno Smith, after being a starter for the New York Jets for 2 years after being drafted, hasn't played, not started, just played in double-digit games in a season since 2014. 2014 was the last time that he played in double-digit games in a season. He had kind of become one of those guys that you're like, he's a backup quarterback, and he's a very good, very valuable backup quarterback. He's talented, he's big, he's got a big arm, and he's been around long enough that he can make a decision, and he's easily adaptable to whatever situation comes along, as you would want your backup quarterback to be. And Geno became the quarterback for the Seattle Seahawks when they traded Russell Wilson to Denver. And currently, Geno Smith, the guy who was relegated to being a backup, Geno Smith, in his 10th year in the NFL, has thrown for 13 touchdowns and only 5 interceptions in 8 games. And thought to be done as a starter, but right now the Seattle Seahawks lead the NFC West. And Geno Smith is playing really good football these days. And a couple of weeks ago, after engineering a game-winning drive for the Seahawks, Geno was interviewed, and his little clip gave us the inspiration for today's edition of the Meaningful Meeting. Check this out.
Folks you said had written you off maybe. What does this say to them?
Yeah, they wrote me off. I ain't right back, though. That's the problem. I ain't right back. Let's go.
All right. Congratulations, Geno.
Thank you.
I love that. They wrote me off, but I ain't right back, though. They wrote me off, but I didn't write back. So why is this so inspiring? It got me thinking, we've all been written off. There's a good chance that whatever it is that you're going through in your life, you've been written off in a variety of ways. It could be, you had a bad divorce and people are saying he'll never recover from that. She'll never recover from that. It's tough times. You lost your job. Maybe you're making a lot less money than you used to. You'll never rebound from that. I've been told several times that we weren't good enough, that I wasn't good enough, that TJ and I as a collective, the Ace and TJ show, just not good enough. That maybe you should move on. And every single time, we have proven that person to be wrong. We're in the process of doing it right now. I hope that's what you're doing. The lesson here is simple. You decide when you are done. You decide when you are through. You decide when you have had enough and you are ready to move on. Now that holds true in everything. A lot of people think you're done. A lot of people might think you're written off because you're in a bad relationship. You're stuck in a bad relationship and you know it's a bad relationship and you just have yet to be able to find enough within yourself to go, you know what? I'm not going to take this anymore. I'm not going to be treated like this anymore. It's time for me to stand up. Everybody's written you off like you'll never get out of this bad relationship. I think about my dad a lot in this case. My dad was a drinker. My dad was an alcoholic. It took him a long time to admit that. And he fought it off and on for years. And I think at some point he just finally gave up. It's like, I just drink a lot. I'm a drinker. People wrote him off, and he let them write him off to a certain extent. Because for whatever reason, he just couldn't he'd overcome it for a little while, then he'd fall back. A little while longer, then he'd fall back. And I've often said my dad was one of those guys that could, take a definitive win. And then the next thing he would do would just turn into a loss. Don't let them write you off. Don't let them determine when you're done. You determine when you're done. Don't let others dictate to you who you are and what you can do when you know you can still do it. Don't let them tell you that you're finished, whatever it is you might be doing. I think about, there was a story the other day about the founder of Macy's. He failed 7 times. He had 7 different department stores, 7 different types of stores that failed. He would open them. They'd be open for a while and they would close. He'd lose money. Start another one, start another one, start another one, 7 times he did that. 7 times he had a business fail. It only worked once. Macy's. You've probably heard of it. Went on at one point to be the biggest retailer in America. Pretty successful. He made hundreds of millions of dollars. Now, here's the thing about this. We've got to be honest with ourselves, and that takes guts. We have to be able to be honest about whatever the situation is. We have to be honest about our role in the situation. And we have to be honest about the passion that we have for the situation. And the question becomes, are we willing to pay the price? So how does this relate to you and whatever it is you're going through right now? Well, in a lot of ways, people say things like, she can't handle what she's going through now. He won't be able to handle it. He won't be able to make it without her after his divorce. She got laid off. Now she's going to have to find a man to take care of her. He just can't stop drinking. He just can't pull it together and can't stop drinking. He just can't be responsible enough to hold a job. We've all heard that kind of stuff. They can write you off all they want. Just don't write back until you are ready, until you have the story that you want to write. Don't give up. Most importantly, don't give in. I saw someone recently on a post of ours about being back on the radio in Charlotte on Kiss 95.1. A guy said that somebody said, I thought you were off the radio. It's nice to have you back. And a guy went under the comment and said that we, quote unquote, had to go back on the radio because, quote, they left to do a podcast and it's failing, end quote. Now, that guy wrote us off. We had to come back onto the radio because our podcast was failing. Well, the lesson here is that usually the people who write you off don't know what they're talking about. Typically, they don't have all the facts. They don't have much insight into what is actually happening. They don't know what's in your heart. They don't know the level of determination you have to change your circumstances. They don't know the level of determination you have to become a different person or make the change, or they don't understand how deeply you have looked inward to figure out your mistakes and the errors of your ways and to fix those. They don't understand your desire and the price you are willing to pay to get through the situation, to make your life better, to be a better person, to win at all costs. They just don't get it. Because most of the time, the people that write you off, they're not big-time people. They're small-time people. They're making a value judgment about you based upon what they think are the facts. See, what's interesting to me about what this guy said about us and our show is the fact that it's the exact opposite. The reason we got back on the radio in the mothership market of Charlotte on Kiss 95.1, where we could have been on the radio before, it was our choice not to be on. We did have offers to go on the radio. The reason we got back on the radio was because of the success of the podcast and what we were doing. Because that success allowed us to work a deal for someone to sell our digital assets. And they were the ones that said, hey, what if we made some changes and put you back on the radio as well to help round out the package? Great, sounds good. So if your case is similar to ours, you've got some guy you don't know, some person saying, quote, they left to do a podcast and it's failing, and end quote. And the reality is the exact opposite. He thought we had to come back to the radio because the podcast was failing. The reality was the success of the numbers of the podcast because of people like you, and you're being a part of the radio family and the loyalty that you've showed us, and I think the loyalty and the entertainment we try to bring to you every day opened the door for that opportunity. He wrote us off. He didn't even know what he was talking about. And the best part about this is you don't have to tell them they're wrong. You don't have to say anything. When people write you off, you don't tell them, I'm not done. You just show them. because they don't care about your words. It's your actions that are most important. Let them see. Let them see your success, because that speaks much louder and carries a lot more weight than just your words. Remember, when they write you off, don't write back until you're ready to write back. Don't write back until you have the story that you want to tell ready to be written. Don't let someone else dictate to you who you are going to be or what you are going to be for the rest of your life, because chances are they don't understand the price you're willing to pay to be better, to improve, to overcome whatever it is that's holding you back right now. Don't let them write you off. And when they do write you off, just don't write back until you've got the story that you want to tell. Our final 5 minutes today, one word. You know I like alliteration. The final 5 minutes, frustration. Next.
The one meeting you actually need each week. There's more of the Meaningful Meeting with Ace coming up.
The Johnson Group Facility Services is a commercial cleaning company that focuses more on customer satisfaction than the bottom line, because each customer works directly with the owners every step of the way. If you need any commercial cleaning, the Johnson Group can handle it. Get details at acetj.com/clean.
If you want to sleep better and lose weight, then the product that you need is called Calitrin, or you can pronounce it Calitrin. Very easy for you to get. Just go to acetj.com/weight loss. acetj.com/weight loss for Calitrin.
Welcome back to the most important meeting of the week. The Radio Button presents the Meaningful Meeting with Ace.
All right, so I've started the clock for the final 5 minutes. So now doing a better job trying to at least of not letting the final 5 minutes last 15. But I'm going to talk about something that's kind of been on my heart lately, on my mind a lot lately, and it's frustration. It's one of the things that I have the most trouble dealing with in my life, because I am typically frustrated by most things in my life. Let me give you an example. If you were to look at our careers with the Ace and TJ show, we've been in the mothership market of Charlotte for 25 years. We've been doing the Ace and TJ show for 29 years. TJ and I have been nominated for Radio and Records Morning Show of the Year 8 times. We've been nominated for a Marconi Award. These are all the biggest awards in the business. We've been nominated for Billboard Awards. We've made over, I think it's something like $10 to $12 million we've made for charity. It might be more than that by now. $10 to $12 million we've made for charity. We started a band on the show that became wildly successful and made more than $1.4 million for charity. We've been at the top of the ratings for a long time. We're one of the 25 most influential radio shows of the past 25 years, as voted upon in 2013 by Morning Mouth Magazine. It's a trade publication. But my point is that just take all of that stuff, which is great. I'm super proud of all of that stuff. Doesn't mean anything to me. I'm so frustrated with my career. I'm so frustrated with everything. And I have a hard time dealing with that. Now, part of it I like. Part of it I like because the frustration makes me want to do better. The frustration makes me want to be better. The frustration pushes me to try to do more, be more, want more. Whether it's success or opportunities or all of these things. I want to do more. But the frustration can just eat you up inside. And that's one of the things that I started dealing with when I was going to therapy, is that I am super frustrated by life in many ways. I'm super frustrated by my inability to deal with my own frustrations. You think you got problems? Get in this head and try to understand that. I see most of my life as like a failure. My point is, don't be me. My point is, don't let this thing consume you. Don't let this thing eat you up. Don't let this, whatever it is inside you, destroy you. TJ has such a good handle on this because he talks about accepting the good wins in life, the easy wins in life, the great moments. I don't have that ability. I've never had that ability. I revel in the joy and the satisfaction of a job well done and these incredible moments, and I love them. I've had some amazing opportunities and moments in my life that I will be forever thankful for. But as soon as it's over, what's the next one going to be? Where are we going to do the next one? It's not enough, and I don't know how to shut that off, and I don't want you to be like I am because it will eat you up inside. And as we go through trying to change ourselves and trying to be better, whether as a person or a parent or a loved one, whatever it might be, those frustrations are the things that hurt us the most, I think. If you think about it like a team, you know, the best football teams that win the Super Bowl every year in the NFL, they're not perfect. They're 16-2, 17-3. They don't win every single game. They just don't. So at the highest levels, they know frustration, but they don't let that stop them from becoming a champion. Don't let your frustration with yourself, don't let your small losses turn into big losses. I guess that's the thing I wanted to share today more than anything else, because I have a tendency to do that. Don't let the small losses that you see in your life turn into big ones because you can't handle the frustration. I think that's really important when you're trying to make a big step to be better, to improve yourself, to overcome something like we're talking about trying to overcome, because that's the kind of thing that'll eat you up inside and derail you and turn a winning season into a losing season. And remember, it's all about having a winning season. You take the victories when you can. One day, you will tell your story of how you've overcome what you're going through now, and it will become part of someone else's survival guide. That's why I'm here. And because maybe sharing that and the thought of helping you helps me feel better about myself somehow. So if you're willing to make our little standing appointment, I'll see you next week.
Now, whatever you're going through, you're not alone. You are a part of the Meaningful Meeting, presented by the Radio Network. Copyright ATJ Inc. 2022.